and welcome back to Aligned Well and New in 2022. So it is indeed our final presentation in this 3-month series, and I thank you for choosing to be present tonight as we embark on this last loop of our voyage. None of this would have been possible without your participation, so I offer you my sincerest and most heartfelt gratitude. Thank you. Before we begin, I want to invite you one more time, those of you who have not yet joined my email community, to please do so, because it will keep us connected once our time here is finished. You know, physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness is a journey that we take every day until our final breath. And the road can sometimes be very long and arduous. We're not meant to go it alone, but together in fellowship and in community. And I don't want to miss out on that with you. So if you go to my website, www.higherfitnessandwellness.com, scroll to the bottom of the homepage, you'll see the option to join my email community. Once you do, you will have access to the support and resources that will continue to guide you toward higher fitness and wellness. And you and I will remain companions in wellness. All right, so let's briefly review what we discovered in the last 2 months as it pertains to being aligned and well. So we learned Human Physics 101, how the way we use our bodies often creates degeneration, pain, and disease. And that in a healthy body, 3 substances flow constantly and seamlessly without hindrance: electricity, blood, and lymph. Next, we discussed who taught us to move and is it harmful or helpful. Then we embarked on how to start moving better. And this introduced us to the switch method, SWITCH. And this is the alignment model that has been guiding us toward improved whole body health. We've learned the S, stand more, sit less, but stand and sit better. We've learned the W, walk for 3 minutes every half hour or for 6 minutes every hour with no tech to keep blood flowing seamlessly and metabolism high. We learned the I, which is interval train the eyes with far gazes and side eye challenges. And we learned the T, which stands for 10 to tech neck, twists, and toes. And tonight we will come full circle learning the C and the H. So the C stands for calf stretch at least 3 times per day to heal nearly every part of your body. Calf stretch at least 3 times per day to heal nearly every part of your body. And the H stands for hang on a chair. Yes, hang on a chair for healthier muscles of the spine, pelvic floor, hips, knees, and feet. Hang on a chair for healthier muscles of the spine, pelvic floor, hips, knees, and feet, and then help hurting hands. So we have a lot to get through. Let's start with the C. Calf stretch at least 3 times per day to heal nearly every part of the body. That's a pretty bold statement, huh? How is that possible? And to what kind of healing am I referring? And what kind of calf stretch can accomplish this? Well, it's not the traditional calf stretch with which most of us are familiar. That would be the runner's stretch or that staggered stance calf stretch. Let me show you. This one, you know, when you have one leg behind you, straight knee, that's the stretching side. And then the front leg is just there to kind of balance you. So that's the traditional calf stretch. But let me go over with you the things that can go wrong with that and why it's not going to be our go-to. First of all, most folks do not usually have their feet straight ahead. Wish I could get that. You just see more of that. My feet. Sorry. There we go. So most people do not usually have the feet straight ahead like this, especially the foot of the stretching side. This is the calf that's stretching, the leg that's behind us. Many people rarely keep those toes straight ahead, but rather turn the foot out. And that's a telltale sign of a tight calf, okay? The other thing that folks will often do is they do not have the heel of the stretching calf in full contact with the floor. So they'll often put the leg back and you'll see this, the heel off the floor. So the two things that go really wrong with that would be turning the foot out and or having the foot back and the heel up, up, up. It's also a stretch that does not promote good posture and balance, right? Because we tend to do that stretch. Does this look familiar? We tend to do this stretch by hanging on something, whether it's a table, a desk, a chair, a wall. So we're pitched forward. Or we tend to hang on the support structure of our front leg, kind of like this. You see that all the time, right? So we're kind of hanging here. That doesn't support upright vertical alignment, the kind of upright vertical alignment that's needed for walking. And finally, the runner's stretch that I just depicted has nothing to do with the way that the foot and lower leg function while being upright and walking. In other words, it doesn't reflect the ankle motion required for walking. When we walk, we don't do this. You know what I'm saying? The motion that we need for walking is a heel strike, or we call it in the world of anatomy and kinesiology, hard dorsiflexion. Heel strike. That runner stretch does not offer that at all. Remember, friends, there are 4 phases of the gait cycle. Sorry that I'm going back and forth here. There are 4 phases of the gait cycle. Heel strike, foot flat, heel off, and then toe off. Those are the 4 phases of our gait cycle. And the first and most crucial phase is that first one, heel strike, striking the heel with the toes up, because it will stop us from having shuffling gaits, falls, and trips, in addition to low bone mineral density in the spine and the hips. We'll get back to the bone density issue in a minute. But tight calf muscles completely change how that heel strikes the ground. In fact, the tighter the calves become, the less able we are to heel strike. In fact, tight calves completely eliminate the heel strike eventually. And so we suddenly lose heel strike, and we then go right to foot flat. And our gait becomes more of a flat-footed or shuffling posture. That doesn't happen because we just turned 60. I'm seeing that lack of heel strike in folks in their 30s from tight calf muscles. It's that simple. The tighter the calf, the more likely you are to lose heel strike. All right. So if we're not going to do the runner stretch, what is the best calf stretch to do to promote heel strike and heal all these other parts of the body that we'll get to? The best calf stretch by far is the one that looks most like walking, and that is called the dome stretch. Now, those of you who know me, especially private clients, sometimes I give weird gifts. Like I'll often give this as a gift to someone and say, you know, you need this. And they're like, thanks. I really like your idea of gifts. This is fun. But this is a dome. This, in fact, is called a half foam roller. So if you go to Amazon, of course, and you put in the search bar, half foam roller, this will pop up, and it's about $10 to $12. This is what's going to change everything. Now, if you don't have a dome and you don't want to invest in one, you can also use alternative props. You could use a thick rolled up towel. It's just as good. Or you could use a rolled up mat. I will show everything tonight using the dome, but these are everyday props that you might have lying around the house, certainly a towel. And these can be used just as efficiently and as well as a half foam roller or dome. Okay. So let me show you how the stretch looks and all the kind of to-dos and why it's so valuable. I want to make sure you can really see me on this because this stretch is important. Okay, there we go. All right, so to do the dome stretch, again, it could be done with a mat rolled up or thick rolled up towel. We want to step the stretching side. So the side that we stretch up is the calf that's going to feel stretch. We step onto that half foam roller, placing the ball of the foot at the apex or top of the dome. Okay. And right off the bat, I feel a little bit of pulling here in my calf. What's important here is to keep the heel on the floor and to straighten this knee on the stretching side. All right. Once we see that the heel is down, the knee is straight, and these toes on the dome have not turned, again, straight feet. Then we can start playing with, I think I'll do this, you're going to see this better. We start playing with the outside leg. So once this foot is straight ahead at the apex of the dome, knee straight, right? We slowly take this leg, the outside non-stretching leg, and we step it as far forward as we can while maintaining hips straight ahead, knees straight ahead, toes straight ahead, and both knees straight with vertical posture. I'm completely upright. Friends, does this look like walking? There's that heel strike we need. So we're focusing on stretching the calf muscle of this extremity, the calf that has the ball of the foot on the dome. Now, what we should be able to do is step that outside leg forward, but 98% of people do not. If they try, this is what we'll often see. Couple things. If they try to step forward, they'll often hunch forward and slouch because the calf muscle is so tight. They also will end up bending one of their knees, if not both. So to get this leg forward, if this calf is so tight, it's going to restrict us, and we end up bending a knee to try to make it happen. Or they often will find themselves incredibly off balance. So what you want to kind of flag, and those of you who get my emails, I will be sending out a video on this and follow-up information. So don't feel that you have to get all this tonight. If you can't perform this stretch with this outside leg forward, in other words, if you lose posture, if you bend either or both knees, or if you feel incredibly off balance, then walk this leg back, the leg of the non-stretching side, back or up. And then you can keep the knees straight. And over time, as this calf becomes more pliable and flexible, and this ankle gains mobility, you'll know you're making progress. It tells you so much. You'll slowly be able to walk this outside foot more and more forward. I have folks who start here, and after practicing this 3 times a day, within 2 months, they're here. Then they're here. All right. And it's a very revealing stretch, right? Because when you have that calf stretching, if you step forward and slouch, that's what you're doing while you're walking. Is all that making sense? So that stretch is incredibly revealing. from the standpoint of tight ankles and tight calf muscles, restricted ankles and restricted calf muscles will affect our posture, our ability to make long strides, our ability to be upright while we're walking, our ability to be stable and balanced while we're walking. All right, so that is what the stretch looks like. I don't want to spend too much more time on that because I want to get into all of the other issues, the other elements to cover. So back to the bold statement of how does that calf stretch with the dome? How does that improve nearly every part or heal nearly every part of the body? Well, we know which version I like, the dome stretch, but how can it promote that healing? Let's take a look. Any ideas, first of all? When you saw that stretch, it kind of the mechanics behind it, we kind of mentioned in January. Think about what we mentioned in January, how that might correlate to where we are today. How might this stretch be so healing, and why? Well, the calf stretch allows us to heal because it sends electricity, circulation, and lymph to the entire body. Once that happens, we experience better function, less pain, less degeneration, and less aging. Still hard to believe. You're not really getting your head around this, right? Most people don't. It's okay. All right, let me go over how this helps us. Let's start with the feet. So anyone with foot problems, and I've had it too, tight calf muscles equate to excessive tension in the Achilles tendon and in the plantar fascia of the foot. That's the bottom of your foot. And that equals foot pain. So if you've ever struggled with plantar fasciitis, Achilles tendonitis, that has everything to do with tight calf muscles and limited ankle mobility. In fact, the tension in the muscles and fascia of a damaged foot can be directly linked to the tension down the backs of the legs. And that includes not only the calf, but the hamstring higher up, the back of the thigh. That's your hamstring group. Decreasing tension and tightness in the calves and in the hamstrings with consistent dome stretching or rolled towel stretching or rolled mat stretching improves circulation, neurology, and waste removal within the feet. And this repairs and restores compromised tissues. Until I started practicing that stretch with the dome, my plantar fasciitis really would not resolve. And I did everything. I went to the podiatrist, got my foot taped, had everything done, all the usual stuff you do. But until I tended to that tightness in my calf muscles and in my hamstrings with that stretch, the one that looks most like walking, the one that demands a heel strike, the one that implements hard dorsiflexion, until I did that, my plantar fasciitis would just be this cycle I was stuck in. So hope that's encouraging for those of you who have foot pain. How does it tend to knees and hips? Because you're going to find this stretch heals everything. Knees and hips. Well, one of our calf muscles, it's called the gastrocnemius. It crosses the back of the knee. It crosses the back of the knee. If it's tight, what might we expect? Knee pain, knee pain. So when that calf muscle, that gastrocnemius, when it's tight back here and it crosses the back of the knee, we can absolutely expect to have knee pain. It's almost inevitable. What about the hips? How does this stretch help our hips? Well, tight calf muscles, how does it affect our hips? Tight calf muscles reduce our ankle mobility, okay? Especially dorsiflexion. If ankle motion is compromised, then the next area in the kinetic chain or the next area of our body that favors mobility has to take over. So in other words, when the ankle says, whoa, my mobility's been lost, I got to pick up the phone and call the next part of the body that favors mobility, that does mobile things. So it picks up the phone and says, yo, my ankle's not working anymore. This person has tight calf muscles. I can't do the dorsiflexion as well. Could you kick in and help out with mobilizing me and moving me from point A to point B? And the part of the body that says, all right, I'll help, but I'm not supposed to, is the hips. Is this making sense? So if the ankle can't do its due diligence, it's got to pick up the phone and call the next area of the body that favors some kind of mobility. That's the hips. And so we end up not only with painful knees, but also with overused, achy hips. Okay, how does this particular stretch affect our backs, our back health, our balance, and our bones? Well, tight calf muscles and limited ankle mobility put excessive torque or unnatural force on the spine, because the restriction at the calves and at the ankle pitches the body forward, creating a posture that leans forward with every step and every stance. So in other words, if you see folks who stand like this or walk like this, kind of pitched forward, that's what I'm talking about. There's a lot of torque on their spines, and that's coming from tight calf muscles, the muscles down below the spine. This promotes obvious poor posture, but it also creates severe back pain. Now, as for the bones of the spine, they cannot remain dense because they can't feel our body weight if it's always pitched forward, right? So we can see how tight calf muscles are affecting our bones in the spine. If we're pitched here, the bones in our spine say, "Where are you? I can't feel you anymore." And so they lose density. And as far as balance, a forward posture creates the chronic sensation of being off balance, right? If we're pitched forward all the time on our feet, we're constantly feeling off balance. And vertical, steady posture becomes nearly impossible. That's why that dome stretch is so revealing. When you get your foot, the ball of your foot up on the peak, and you try to take a normal stride forward, as you take a normal stride forward, if you can't stay here, but rather you go here, and that's what happens to most people, that is extremely revealing. That is how your gait is becoming, whether you're conscious of it or not. Those tight calf muscles are pitching you forward, and it's affecting your bone health, your balance, and your gait. How are we so far? This is a lot. How do tight calf muscles affect our pelvic alignment and our internal organ placement? Yes, bear with me. Calf muscles at their proper length, when they're good and flexible and pliable, permit the pelvis to sit properly in neutral alignment. So we went over this back in session 1. Remember I told you when you stand and when you sit, avoid tucking your dog tail. We want the pelvis neutral. So this is no good. That's called a posterior pelvic tilt, and we're tucking our dog tail under. This is an anterior pelvic tilt, which is less common. We see that with pregnant moms because of the weight of the fetus. But if you cannot be in neutral pelvic alignment, in other words, here and not here or here, then we're going to have problems with the pelvic floor and with pelvic health. Healthy pelvic alignment not only influences our digestion, but also pelvic health in women and men. A tucked pelvis equals organ misalignment. That leads to organ prolapse, overactive bladders, and prostate inflammation and dysfunction. Our organs literally get realigned from a tucked pelvis. You're moving the sacrum, you're moving the pelvis in a way that's not natural. And that creates a lot of inflammation. Things do not sit properly internally. You literally change where things are sitting. And we pay for that. Again, we don't suddenly turn 65 and say, I got to pee all night. We're seeing that younger and younger because we all tend to sit so much and so improperly. So all of these ailments are coming on as I opened my first presentation that way. Why are all these ailments starting younger and younger and younger? It's not you turn a magical age and should expect this laundry list of dysfunction to happen. It's because of the way we're moving, the way we're sitting, the way we're standing, the way we're posturing. More on bones and more on balance and gait when it comes to this particular stretch and tight calf muscles. So limited calf flexibility and limited ankle mobility will change the way that the heel strikes the ground while walking. We already said that tight calf muscles prevent the first and most crucial phase of the gait cycle, heel strike. Without a heel strike, every time you walk, and obviously you alternate your feet, your legs, without that heel strike, there is no vibrational impact forces that can come from the ground, travel up the leg to keep the bones of the hips, your femur, and your spine dense. Okay, so just by walking well and heel striking, you can have stronger bones. By not walking well and losing your heel strike and becoming more of a flat-footed gait pattern walker, you'll lose your bone density. We have to feel some impact. Impact's not bad. We have to feel some impact from the ground up. All right. No heel strike also leads, once again, to shuffling gaits, trips, and falls. And no heel strike, just to review, pitches you forward. Pitches you forward. And so when you're pitched forward, as I intimated before, the bones of the spine become less dense because your spine can't feel you anymore. It can't feel its weight. It's here instead of here. The dome stretch reverses all this damage. It places the body in a vertical, straight, weight-bearing posture, teaching the body to hold itself up against gravity. This not only loads the bones, but also leads to healthy posture and stable balance, finally, once and for all. How about diabetics? Foot health is a real issue for those with diabetes. A calf at its appropriate length, that's flexible, that's pliable, will encourage healthy circulation and nutrition to the feet, slowing down or even warding off diabetic neuropathy. And finally, pain sufferers, those of you who are in chronic pain. The calf stretch will address chronic pain in the three notorious areas. The three areas that we hear about pain all the time tend to be the knees, the feet, and the spine or the back. So the calf stretch practiced regularly will decrease friction at the knee. It will loosen the fascia of the feet, and it will reduce the torque and unnatural forces on the spine. All right. How you doing, Lynn? Okay. You ready for the H? All right. It's time to hang on a chair for healthier muscles of the spine, the pelvic floor, the hips, the knees, and the feet. And then we're going to help hurting hands. So what does hanging on a chair mean? And how will it support the health of all these structures I just mentioned? Well, we've already said that our bodies experience global tightness all over, from our sedentary tendencies and from the lack of variety in our movement when we do move. We insufficiently bend, reach, twist, and rotate. And when we do, we tend to do it incorrectly because our muscles have become so restricted. Our toes are also tight, and our feet are weak because of our shoe habits. The result is that our bodies are in this chronic pain. So let me show you how hanging on a chair can help. Okay, get back here and hopefully you can see me. Yeah, this will be good. All right, so hanging on a chair. You can do this on a high chair. That's what I normally do. You could do it on a counter. And then as you gain more flexibility and pliability, you could even do it on the seat of the chair. And I'll demonstrate that in a moment. But basically what we want to do is step back from the chair several inches. You'll know you're back far enough when you can place your hands on the chair, the fingertips, and your elbows are straight. If you're here, you're too close. So we get back, feet are about hip width, toes straight ahead. Place the hands here, and then we simply bend forward from the hips. And I can move back a little bit. and I hang on the chair. I let my head just hang through between the arms. The chest is nice and wide. And can you see that my weight is really back in my buttocks, right? My knees are straight. It's not here. And if you're wondering, well, how do I know if my weight's back far enough? Because this is often a common beginner's flaw, to push forward into the chair. And you might think you're back, right? But you're kind of pushing forward. Check to see whether you can wiggle your toes. That's the test. So if I'm here, all my weight's in my toes, I can't wiggle them. I'm going to back her on up, and when in doubt, push the butt out. That's what I always say. When in doubt, push the butt out. Once I'm in this position, my weight is through my buttocks and it's through the heels of my feet, and I can indeed wiggle my toes. And then you just hang there. You hang there for as long as is comfortable, and allow yourself to feel that stretch. You'll feel the stretch through the calf muscles again, through the hamstrings at the back of the knee. You'll feel it through your spine as your arms are forward on the chair. And let's just go over what this is going to do for you. For your feet, as you perform that stretch. I'll go there. Especially if you perform it barefoot, you're going to send more nutrition to the feet because the calf muscles are on stretch, right? How about the knees and hips? When we straighten our knees and push our hips back, we stretch those tight hamstrings and calf muscles, and that reduces knee and hip pain, as we just talked about. What about the pelvic floor? How does this help our pelvic floor? When we learn to untuck the pelvis, that's a no-no. When we learn to push the bottom back, stick the dog tail out, we no longer displace those organs around the pelvis, and that means we have improved circulation, reduced inflammation, and a healthier pelvic floor. When we hang on the chair, we immediately can detect the health of the spine. So when I hang, you can see that my spine is concave, meaning it's got its nice natural curves to it. There are folks who hang on the chair who have such tightness that their spine becomes convexed or rounded like this. So when you use this chair, you're going to detect one or the other in terms of your posturing. If you are rounded up like this and convexed, it means that the hamstring and calf muscles, again, are so tight that they're changing the shape and function of your spine. And that's leading to some of these health issues, especially just generalized pain. Hanging on a chair will also decompress and traction the spine, opening up healthy joint space. So if you go to a chiropractor, they'll decompress you. That is, they might pull your neck upward. They might pull your feet downward. All of that is opening joint space in the spine. That's tractioning, that's decompression. You can do that here. And take some nice deep breaths. Make sure you can wiggle the toes, weight in the heels, bottom out, knees straight. Now, I said that as you get more pliable, you can go to other parts of the chair. So this is nice and high. I could flip this around and I could go here. So now I'm demanding more range of motion, right? I'm reaching lower, but still reaching and hanging on the chair. And this creates far more stretch. I feel far more tension in my calf muscles and in my hamstrings. All right, so that is hanging on a chair. We have chairs. We have chairs everywhere. We can certainly do more than just sit on them. All right. All right, the last part of the H is help hurting hands. Help hurting hands. Hurting hands are a real issue for people of all ages, Carpal tunnel, arthritis, and overuse injuries of the hands and fingers are rampant. And once again, it has everything to do with our technology-based movement habits. One of the first things that folks will often will say to me is that as they note a decrease in their hand strength, that is, they can't grip quite as well, they can't open a jar quite as well. They also note that the fingers are starting to bend and they're not quite as mobile. Okay, so they're very cognizant of that. They're very keen to start squeezing a ball, a stress ball. And I'll ask them, I say, okay, that's good. They may say they were told to squeeze it, a PT said to squeeze it, whatever. So you squeeze that thing to try to improve strength. I'll follow up and say, how are you doing with your hands? Are you experiencing any resolution? And most people will say that it's really not supporting them or delivering the results they had hoped for. It may even be making the weakness worse. So we look at that and we say, but why? When I squeeze something, that should improve my strength, right? Let's think about how we use our hands all day, especially our dominant hand. We assume gripped positions with curled fingers all day long. Holding a cell phone, typing on a cell phone, on our tablets. A squeeze ball mimics the same exact motions that we're engaging in constantly. We don't need more squeezing, curling, or gripping. We need to go the other way. I call it train the opposite direction. We need stretching and opening of all of that restricted joint space, sending healing blood and electricity circulation to the area with healthy waste removal. So if you are feeling a change in the strength of your hands or in your dexterity or in your range of motion, they're getting more and more curled up, gripping a ball, I highly discourage, because you're just mimicking the same pattern that you're overusing throughout the day. Let me demonstrate to you what works really well. We can do it together. And please join me in this. So why don't we start with our dominant hand? That's my right. Anchor your right elbow against your rib cage at 90 degrees. And then spread the digits as best you can. Now I'm a little bit compromised here. I have something going on, so don't mind that. Your wrist is pretty straight. We start with the pinky. Pull it down, gently traction it downward as far as you can. I usually hold it for about 3 to 5 seconds. If your fingers are bent, try please to straighten them and traction that way. If you can't, you can't. Then traction this way, but you won't derive as much benefit. So please try to straighten. Gentle traction. You're on your dominant hand, the pinky. 1, 2, 3. Take note of the range of motion that you get and take note as to whether it feels tight. Your ring finger. 1, 2, 3. Middle finger. 1, 2, 3. Index finger. 1, 2, 3. You don't do the thumb. I'll get to that in a second. All right. That was your dominant. Did it feel, hands up if it felt tight and restricted, like the fingers barely moved as you traction downward? Yes or yeah? Kind of tight and restricted? Take note of that mentally, what you were able to attain on the dominant. Go to your non-dominant now. Elbow bent 90 degrees on your non-dominant side. Spread your digits. Start with the pinky. You'll see a difference in me too. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Index. 1, 2, 3. Did you note more pliability and flexibility in your non-dominant side? Yeah. What does that tell you? Your non-dominant side isn't doing all the gripping, squeezing, clenching, curling that your right is. That means we do not squeeze balls, friends. We need stretch, range of motion. I have seen this change folks radically. They are in pain. It will also help the thumb, which is very prone to arthritis. Now, we pull that, hold 3 to 5 seconds, go through that a few times. I'll end this whole presentation with how we make all this work, right? All these movement habits. You're not going to be just sitting around the house for 7 hours doing this stuff. Your thumb, what do you do for your thumb? I'm just going to show one side for the sake of time. I'll demonstrate on my non-dominant. You make a hitchhiker's finger, okay? And you use your opposite hand and grab that thumb like a joystick. Remember when you used to play video games, a joystick? Your thumb has an infinite capacity for movement. I'm moving it back, forward, side, side, downward angle, downward opposite angle, upward angle, opposite upward angle, rotation or circular motion. Your thumb is called a saddle joint, which means it has a lot of mobility. That's why it's prone to so much of that arthritis too. Just like a joystick. When you experiment and you move it around like a joystick, the areas where you find a tension, where, ooh, you get a little feedback or it feels tight, hang in there. Gently move your joystick through that area. We don't do this, right? When do we do this with our fingers? And that's what's creating all all those challenges. Arthritis, I'm telling you, there's no movement there. There's no circulation. There's no blood flow. There's no electricity. That's why this stuff happens. Same thing with the thumbs. When do we do all that? Right? Okay. Now, those of you in my email community, did you read the entirety of my most recent email, which was the save the date email for tonight? If you read through to the end, I posed a question. If we have time for only one movement habit, what might it be? In other words, if we can commit to only one letter of the switch method, what should it be? And that doesn't mean you do the other letters, but I'm just trying to say, if you can only commit to one, look over your switch. You may have it written down. So is it stand more, sit less, but stand and sit better? Is it walk every 3 minutes every 30 minutes or 6 minutes every hour? Is it interval train the eyes? Is it 10 to tech, neck twists and toes? Is it calf stretch 3 times a day? Or is it hang on a chair and help healing hands? It's a tough question because all of it counts, right? But if you have time and you're willing to commit to only one, it will be calf stretch at least 3 times a day to heal nearly every part of the body. Now, I'm saying that and I'm encouraging that because not only does the calf stretch heal nearly every part of the body, as we went over tonight, but this is the movement that can be stacked with all your other movement habits of switch. Stacking, remember what that means? We went over that last month. Stacking means that we're not devoting more hours to all of this movement. Rather, we're using more movement at one time when we decide to move. You stack the exercises. So let me demonstrate how we can do the calf stretch and stack that with everything else and why it works and it all comes together. Okay. So as I perform my calf stretch, and I'll go over duration and all that in a second, but as I perform that calf stretch, I'm going to now bring you up so that I can see you because you know what the calf stretch looks like. We can now implement the S of switch, right? We're standing more, we're sitting less, and this teaches us to stand and sit better because of all the alignment and the balance and the bone stacking and the restoration to tight muscles that we discussed earlier. So that tends to the S. When we calf stretch, we're actually addressing the W. When it comes to walking 3 minutes every 30 minutes or 6 minutes every hour, we'll be equipped to do it better. This stretch changes our alignment, our balance, our gait, as I just talked about. so that we want to walk more. Friends, when you feel more steady on your feet, you're going to want to walk more. When you feel more balanced, when you feel more aligned, when it doesn't hurt, you'll want to walk more, and you will. So it actually addresses the W. It also addresses the eye. We can practice interval training the eyes with far gazes and side-eye challenges, right? We can be on that dome, standing up, and find something far away at which we can gaze. We can do our side-eye challenges while we calf stretch. I mean, you're going to be doing it 3 times a day, right? We can tend to the T, tech, neck, twists, and toes as we are calf stretching and upright. Why not throw in a couple of chin tucks? We can even, this is a more advanced version that I teach as people progress with the calf stretch, but we can even add twists. So once you're up there, you can practice our twisting. Remember how valuable that is. I'm very limited just because my back is a little flared up tonight, so I'm not twisting real well. But in that calf motion, you can twist. You can tend to tech neck, and you can even tend to your toes. When I calf stretch now, I do it with my toe spreaders on because I feel really stable and I have the flexibility now to do that. But even if you're not comfortable putting your toe spreaders on while you perform the calf stretch, you're benefiting your toes. Remember, when you calf stretch, especially if you're barefoot, you are sending more nutrition, circulation, electricity, lymph to the feet, restoration to the toes. It'll happen. And finally, we can address the H. We know that calf stretching with that dome is healing. In fact, if you want the truth, it will heal our spines, pelvic floors, hips, knees, and feet even better than hanging on the chair. There we go, I said it. And we can also address our hands as we calf stretch. You see, with the calf stretch, you can put everything else with it. Can you see how all of this movement is meant to work together? Do we see how it stacks so beautifully? One healthy habit indeed leads to another. It isn't difficult. It isn't costly. It isn't time consuming. You see how you can stack it. It's just a different way to think about how we move and why we must move. Friends, God truly desires, I believe this with all my heart, to lead us to well-watered places in our physical, emotional, and spiritual wellness. He wants growth for us. He wants an abundant harvest for us. But I also know that everything worthwhile is uphill. Everything. All the good stuff, you trek up a bit. You have to trek up. There's resistance, right? There's tension to push through. It's not the wide and shallow. New habits, no matter how healthy they are, do not come naturally at first. So we must persist again and again and again. I've learned the hard way that God will not do my part. I have to be intentional each and every day about how I use my time, my talents, my treasures, and my temple for my good and his glory. I have to climb some hills every single day for the things that matter most and deny my downhill tendencies that inevitably lead me to destructive ways. And there have been a lot of them. I get how challenging this can feel. That's why I do what I do. I get it. But the amazing thing about God is that as we do our part, he is always faithful to do his part. He wants us well, and he will work with us on our behalf. It's who he is, and it's biblical. Ephesians 3:20 says that all glory to God, who is able through his mighty power at work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask or think. So as we continue on our pilgrimage to higher fitness and wellness, let's cling to the truth. The truth is, God is for us, and we need God in order to do life well, even our fitness. We are for one another, and we need one another to do life well. And our bodies are for us, even on the days when they are crying out in pain, and it feels as if they are completely rebelling. Our bodies were made for motion. Our bodies crave and need daily movement to be aligned, well, and new, not just in 2022, but always. I love you, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart for this assignment. God bless you.
Wow, Jen, I don't even know where to begin. So much great information. But does anyone have anything? I mean, it's just inspirational. Does anyone have anything they'd like to ask Jen? We only have a few minutes left, but she surely is open to answer any questions you may have, or you're welcome to unmute yourself. I can't really see you all, so you're welcome to unmute yourself, or you can put it in the chat as well.
I was wondering, I'm Beverly, I was wondering if the calf stretches would address neuropathy. I think you might have said something about that in relation to diabetes, but I think I missed it. So.
Yes, so there was a lot of information. Yes, the calf stretch addresses neuropathy.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Cool.
I have a question. I notice you're not wearing sneakers. Is it best to do these stretches barefooted, or can you wear sneakers?
Is that you, Anita?
No, it's Kitty.
Hello, Kitty. So
Hello.
anyway, yes, I'm not wearing, because I'm home and I'm kind of comfy, so I'm wearing my socks. But I will say that when it comes to the calf stretching with the dome and even the hanging on the chair, barefoot is always preferable. Barefoot is always preferable. That's our natural state. It's healthiest for our feet. It's when our toes can spread, but don't let that impede you from doing the exercise. If you're in the office and you can't get barefoot, I'd rather you engage in the stretch. Barefoot is always best, but you will still benefit if you have your shoes on.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Great. And there's a question here too, Jen. Can you reverse low bone density at all? And will any of this address that?
Yeah, so there was a lot of chat about bones, how it's so crucial for us to do that dome stretch so that we learn to be aligned and vertical. So as long as we are not upright, remember that the weight of our spines and our hips, or the bones, I'm sorry, the bones of our spines and our hips will not feel our body weight. That's one reason why this posture tends to happen as we age. So lots of folks will say that curled kyphotic posture, they'll say that osteoporosis caused that. Osteoporosis caused my spine to become this, when it's the opposite. Because you have engaged in frequent posture like this, that's what caused the osteoporosis. So yes, upright posture, learning to heel strike and not lose that first crucial phase of the gait cycle, because remember, you get vibrational impact from the ground. That addresses bone density. Can you reverse? So osteoporosis, now, Pat, you're the nurse, so you can please chime in and correct me. Osteoporosis, depending upon how advanced it is, some people edge back into osteopenia. Have you heard of that, Pat?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, you can move backwards. And what's really great is to just halt it. Halt it. That means a whole lot. That means a whole lot. So both can be attained. A subtle reversal and certainly a halting to the progression of osteoporosis or even osteopenia. You can prevent osteopenia from becoming osteoporosis practicing this.
Right. And I would say that's more the case, that you can halt it, prevent it from getting worse.
Yeah, you just get it to stand still.
Yeah.
I just want to chime in. This is Betsy. I just want to chime in that I've been going to Jenny's classes since I think 2016. And my bone density numbers improved in my hip.
Mhm.
And I was so thrilled to have that happen. So keep those classes going. And those of you who don't attend, sign up.
Betsy, I've always said you should be my marketing manager.
Do
Thank you, Betsy.
you need to mention those classes, or is that in your newsletter?
I'll give a refresher here. The Safe on Your Feet classes at Westside currently run every Tuesday and Thursday from 12:15 to 1 o'clock on both days. And we meet in the chapel.
I have a question. There's certain exercises I can't do because I'm not allowed to stretch. I have a pin and screw in my hip. If I try to do something, I could seriously injure myself. But again, I'm allowed to do ankle pumps. I can do that. I don't remember what else I'm allowed to do. Oh my God, what did the therapist give? I'm trying to remember. I can't stretch a certain way or I can seriously injure myself.
Consult with your physician. If when in doubt, consult with your physician. That's the best.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to whip the screw out of my hip and then and on top of it, I got terrible arthritis in the hip. It came from when I broke the bone. It just tons of it.
Sure. No, we don't want to do more harm ever.
No, we don't. I had enough problems with it a few years ago. No, we don't.
Oh, wow.
What's your email address?
Well, we can put it.
We put it in the chat.
Yeah.
It's in there.
Oh, it is in there?
www.higherfitnessandwellness.com.
Yeah, go there, go to the home page, which is the first page on which you land, scroll to the bottom. And when you go ahead and join that email community, you'll have my email address.
Okay. Oh my gosh. So Jen, we are getting, Liz put it in again at the bottom of the chat, because if you came in a little late, you would not have had that in your chat.
Mhm.
Okay. So here we are. Thank you. Amazing, wonderful. Everyone is just finding you such a treasure, Jen, and so are we at Westside. So we are incredibly grateful for the time, the energy, and the focus that you put in really the whole body, the whole person. And, and that goes to our body, mind, emotion, and spirit. So thank you so much again for this wonderful series. We look forward to what's coming next, because I know there will be more. Thank you to this community who joined us this evening. And as we say, be well. So as you go on your way, be well. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you.